Welcome to Veterans Voice. This is your host, Ron Waters, and I have some guests with me today, some military people. That some are ex-military, and we want to get back to them. I believe, as to quote someone that said years ago, we're going to have a really big show. So please don't miss this section. We'll be right back. On Veterans Voice today, we have a guest with us. Her name is Alicia Wines. She is in the Air Force, and she just joined this just about a year ago, wasn't it?
Yep.
Back in June of last year, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us about what made you choose the Air Force?
Well, I was in my last semester of college. Still had no idea what I was going to do with my life. I just knew I was getting my associates before anything.
Mm-hmm.
The recruiter called me January of last year, and when he said Air Force, I was like, I don't want to be a pilot. I don't like planes. And they started telling me all the different career options they had.
Mm-hmm.
And we just started talking. I went to his office, and by March, I signed the contract.
And what did your mother say about that?
She was freaking out.
She was freaking out.
Oh, yeah, she was like, what, you don't want to join the military? No, you don't want to do that.
Now, are you glad you did?
Yes.
So what kind of training did they send you to? You went to San Antonio, Texas for your basic training. How long were you there, and where did you go to from there to your official training?
So all Air Force members go through Lackland, San Antonio for basic training. I was there for about 8 weeks.
About 8 weeks?
Yeah, 7 weeks of BMT, and then 8th week is called Airman's Week, just kind of transition out of that.
Did you find the training a little hard?
At moments, yeah.
At moments?
Moments I was just like, what the heck am I doing here? I don't want to do this anymore. But, I mean, that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to break you down, then build you back up.
Now, I know you were out running and trying to get some exercise before you went in, right?
Oh, yeah. Ever since I was like, yeah, I want to do the Air Force, I looked up online what to do, and I just started exercising since then to prepare myself. Now,
how long did you enlist for?
I did a 4-year contract just in case, I didn't.
You're going to get some benefits for that, aren't you? As far as college credits and all that stuff?
Oh, yeah, the training, I already got about 36 credits for all my training.
36?
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't your dad in the Navy?
Yeah, he was, I think, active for 4 years and then reserve for 14, I believe.
So why did you choose the Navy?
They just didn't call me. Air Force
got there first and talked you into it, and
Yep.
You're kind of glad you did.
Oh, yeah.
You think you'll make a career of it?
I plan to. I'm still trying to fill it out to see if that's what I want to do, but yeah, at this moment I plan to stay in for at least 20 years.
That's great. On your graduation day, that was a pretty good feeling, was it? I know when I was in the Marine Corps and we finally got through the boot camp training, we got to graduation day, I felt like I could whip the world. They told us we could. And I'd lost 22 pounds in boot camp. And, I could do a lot of things that I can't do now, of course. Run 5 miles a day without even getting out of breath. But when you got on to graduation day, that was a great feeling. I know it must have been.
Felt unreal. It was amazing, though. Just standing there and watching everyone in the stands cheer for us. It just didn't feel real.
There's about 800 troops there graduating at the same time, weren't they?
About that many.
About that many?
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people.
Yeah. I wanted to go down with your mother to see your graduation. Of course, you were my granddaughter. I wanted to be there, but I missed it. So, do you like the job that you're being trained for, or have you been trained for that and they're probably going to send you somewhere else?
Yeah, it's not what I wanted to go into, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
But once I got through training, I realized that, hey, I'll be able to use this throughout, the rest of my life, and it wasn't that bad, and it's heavily needed because it's a cyber job, so it can go anywhere.
So you're liable to end up anywhere, huh?
Oh yeah, they can station me anywhere because there's computers everywhere.
I know my wife's uncle was in the Air Force, made a career, and he ended up in Alaska as a weatherman. I guess they have a lot of weather in Alaska, don't they?
Yeah.
But he went several different places. But I imagine you'll go several places, and you'll serve your country well. And we really appreciate your service and appreciate you being with us today. And I hope that things go well for you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the support.
All right. That was Alicia Wines, and we're so happy she was able to be with us today. And we're going to interview a couple of Navy veterans. So we'll be right back. Welcome back to Veterans Voice. We have two special guests with us. We want to get into interviewing them today. Michael Vessels and his wife Virginia. They're both Navy veterans. And Michael was telling me the other day that his father served in World War II on a Navy vessel. And he's going to tell us about that. And his wife actually served, 27 years, was it?
Total
active duty.
With reserve time.
With the reserve time in the Navy. Now that's really a good accomplishment. And so we have that first ship that you were on, Michael. You told me the other day the name of it was Farragut.
Yeah, the USS Farragut.
USS Farragut.
It was one of the early guided missile frigates.
Guided missile frigate.
Yeah, and I went on there actually as just a deck guy.
Now,
And they brought me into the gunnery division, in the missile division, and
what year was that?
I joined in 1966 and went active in 1967 through
So that was the
69.
Vietnam War era,
Exactly.
Vietnam War period. Yeah.
Exactly. So they put me on this first ship. We were out in the North Atlantic in a storm, and we almost capsized. The
Yeah.
ship was one of the early frigates. It was kind of top heavy.
Kind of top heavy.
Yeah. So of course, when you're young and you're invincible,
Yeah.
you don't think about a ship sinking.
Yeah.
But evidently somebody did, because when we got back in, they decommissioned that ship and every other ship in the same class.
Oh, I see.
Because they thought we were going under that night.
So they.
I just thought it was a pretty good ride.
You were thinking this is a pretty good ride, huh?
Yeah.
And the second ship that you were on was the U.S. Power DD-839, and that served in Vietnam too, didn't it?
That is correct. I went to that ship after I left the Farragut, and funny thing about the day before the ship pulled out to go to Vietnam, I came down with viral meningitis, so they took me off the ship.
Oh.
And I recovered pretty fast, and I caught the ship in Hawaii.
Oh.
I was standing on the pier waiting for the ship to come in. And you mentioned, that my dad was in the Navy. He was on the Arizona when the Japanese bombed it.
And on December 7th, 41. wasn't it?
December 7th.
And
Hawaii.
Arizona was sunk, wasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
There were 286 men in his division, and him and
286
5
men.
others survived.
Only 5. Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So when I was standing there on the pier waiting for the ship to come in, they were filming Tora, Tora, Tora.
They were filming that movie, the torture,
Yeah,
recreating the whole thing.
It was kind of an eerie feeling. I was sitting there
Yeah, I
watching.
imagine so. Thinking about your dad, being there on Pearl Harbor Day, and imagine it brought up some strange feelings, proud feelings too.
It did.
And
did.
the occupation that you were in, what was your MOS, what they call
I
it?
was a gunner's mate.
You were a gunner's mate.
Yeah,
Now the second ship was a destroyer, wasn't it?
that is correct.
Okay. What does a destroyer do? I know they have they have those. They go after submarines, don't they?
Exactly. That's exactly what my ship was, a ASW.
Yeah.
We had torpedoes. We had what's called ASROC, torpedo-assisted rockets, with a launcher so that we could fire pretty far out to get a sub that was way out.
I was reading up on some of that. It could go 45 miles an hour.
It was fast.
You know, and that was one of the fastest ships. You know, and the Japanese subs, they really tried to keep away from them because they could catch up with them. So, were you a draftee or were you a volunteer?
No, I volunteered. I
Volunteered.
joined. Yeah.
Now, what about you, Virginia?
I wasn't a draftee. I wanted to get in. When I got out of college, I wanted to join the Navy. It didn't even matter the other services. It was just something
Yeah.
was in my head.
Now, what did you end up doing? What was your MOS?
I joined when I joined in the reserves. It was when there was the Vietnam War was over with, basically, and they were withdrawing the troops. So there's a lot of people they're trying to get rid of.
Yeah.
So there weren't very many billets available or jobs available.
I see.
And I had a business degree, so the only thing available was aviation maintenance administration, which is clerical in the aviation side of the house. And but the only problem is you needed to be at an air base to work in your field.
Oh.
And Cape Girardeau, Missouri has no air bases, so I had to go to Millington to get trained a little bit, get qualified in my rate. And I came in under the APG, Advanced Pay Grade, because of my college.
Because your college degree.
Yeah, and I had to perform some qualifications to secure that rate. If I hadn't secured it within 2 years.
What would you say to a young lady today about
check
joining?
out every opportunity you can in the military to find something that works for you.
Find something that
Because
works for you.
they have so many programs that you could get into that will help you individually inside you, and to make you a leader, and to make you a person.
Gives you a sense of pride.
Yeah,
and accomplishment.
And knowing that you could do more than what you ever thought you could do.
Yeah.
You put your limits on you. The Navy or the military does not put limits on you. It gives you opportunities.
Right.
And all you got to do is strive to meet those opportunities.
Yeah.
And it's not easy, but life is not easy, and you get so many benefits from it. Not just the job and the status as a veteran, but you get to go to school some more if you wanted to. You get medical care. You get lots of opportunities to mix with other people that has some idea of what you went through.
Yeah.
And you always find friends in the military, in veterans. They're always there to welcome another veteran. And if you have a problem, somebody's there can help you to get through it, whatever it is. And it's just there's no reason why anybody would not want to be in the military.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're scared, that's the perfect reason to go in the military.
There's a lot of young people out there, they're not sure what they want to do, they don't have a job necessarily, they're living in their parents' basement maybe.
Well, and they give you a test to see what you like, what kind of skills, if they, what do you call it, where your field of study would best fit you.
Yeah.
And
they put you through all them exams and everything.
Yes, and so, I don't know what I want to be. That's exactly what I went in.
How many people at age 18, young man or young woman, knows what they want to do?
I have not met many of them.
I was 19 actually before I graduated high school. I still didn't know for sure what I wanted to do. I knew the Vietnam War was going on, so a Marine recruiter, he made the decision for me. Yeah. He come walking across the cornfield. My dad and I were shucking corn by hand. We had a small farm, and so he come across there in his dress blues, and he come across there, and I said, "Hey, you're going to get your shoes dirty." They were already dusty. And he just took out his white handkerchief and wiped them off and says, "No problem." And he told me about the Marine Corps, and he said the Navy was looking at you, that I was on the draft list. He said, so you're going at some time or another. And Vietnam was going on. That was 1965 that I graduated from high school. So I said, well, I can't swim. I don't want the Navy. So I picked the Marines, and Mom threw a fit. You ain't going in the Marines? That's when I decided, yeah, I am. I joined.
She picked it for you, didn't she?
Yeah, and you know what? I got into about my 11th week of training, and they threw me in a big pool, and I had to swim, which I didn't. A week later, the training taught me how to swim. But
Yeah.
now, this was your period. You were stationed. Were you ever stationed on a ship?
I had my active duty was always on ships.
It was always on the ships.
Yeah, I was in the reserves. The first like 20 years, almost 20 years, I was reserve. And when I came in, like I said, as an APG, as aviation maintenance.
Oh, I see.
When we were drilling at Cape Girardeau, Missouri, which is our nearest drill site, Michael was, at the time, he was a gunner's mate missile. And they said, we need minemen.
Pretty cute at the time, huh?
Yeah, they need more. They need minemen, and anybody that related to it, they could, what do you call that? Cross rate and be a mineman.
Yeah.
And then I said, well, I want to. And they said, well, that's a combat rate. You can't go there. And I said, I want to go. And so my commanding officer was an excellent commanding officer. He wrote letters of recommendation, and I was like the only reservist in the school.
Wow.
There was other females in the classes. All of the guys that went to the classes said, there's women over there in it. She can go if she wants to.
Yeah.
But I went through it. It was a 1 month in Orlando with basic electricity, electronic school, and then 3 months in mineman school.
3 months.
And I got Sailor of the Month over there, which
Sailor of the Month.
in a 3-month school. And when I came back to the reserve,
You think there was more discipline back then in the military than there is today?
Definitely.
Definitely. Yeah.
And discipline is good.
Yeah.
But discipline in certain areas is better than discipline in all the areas that they cover.
Yeah. That's one thing the Marine Corps stressed, discipline. You couldn't learn discipline, they didn't want you. They send you back home. You can't learn to take an order, regardless of what the order is. You have a second thought about it, they don't want you. Because you're going to put somebody else's life in danger. So whatever our services are, whether the Navy, the Air Force, or the Marines, or the Army, or the Coast Guard, or all of those, they serve well. They represent their country, and I'm proud of every one of them.
Yeah.
And your specific training, Michael, for that ship, what kind of a training was it? I mean, you had to go from some kind of training before you actually got on the ship. Is that right?
Yeah, well, of course, you went through a lot of training in boot camp.
Yeah.
Firefighting.
Now, I've heard that the Navy has Marines training in boot camp, as DIs, the drill instructors. Is that true?
Well, when I was in boot camp, I didn't see any Marines at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Could have been there.
Yeah.
But I was concentrating just on getting out of boot camp.
Was that in Chicago? I think most of the
that was in Chicago.
Trained in Chicago.
In the wintertime.
See, I lived in Illinois at the time,
Lots of snow.
Yeah.
I mean, one day our company commander come in and said, boys, tomorrow we're going to make you cry. And I thought to myself, give it your best shot.
Yeah.
I'll take whatever you dish out.
Yeah.
So they ran us through the tear gas house that next day.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, yeah. You cried like a baby.
And did you have to sing the Navy song? I know we had to sing the Marine Corps hymn. We had to take our masks off and then sing the Marine Corps hymn. Well, we didn't get very far through it.
No, you start crying.
The second time I went through the gas chamber, I forgot my hat, dropped it in there. Of course, I had to go back in without the mask to find my cap. Oh, boy. That stuff,
one of the great things about the Navy is, the old saying, join the Navy, see the world.
Yeah.
And you do. And I went a lot of places and got paid to do it.
Yeah.
Virginia's went many, many places in the Navy.
Yeah.
I didn't make it to Australia like he did, or New Zealand.
So you probably can't remember all the countries or places where you were, but it was Australia.
Well, he went to Vietnam too, and I didn't
and
get
you
to
went
go
to Vietnam
there.
and
But I got to go to Hawaii and Puerto
Japan.
Rico.
Did you get to go to Japan?
We just touched down with the plane there, but got to go to Korea, Europe,
She was part of the 50th anniversary of D-Day, which
Really?
was as a part of the Navy contingent.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was, everything is a good experience.
It is.
You know,
Yeah.
and as a reservist, you know, you're only going to have like this 2-week window or 3-week window.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at it totally, that really broadens you. I mean, it just really enlightens you.
Yeah.
And I just, you know, the Navy has done a lot for me.
Yeah.
And I think, like I said, I think every young person needs to spend some time in the military.
I think it's good, yeah.
And the
Michael,
Navy
you were
is-
telling me the other day that your father was on that ship, you know, on December 7th, 1941.
Yes, yes.
And that ship was the Arizona, is that right?
That's correct.
And it was one of them that was sunk. And it's still there, isn't it?
Still there. The superstructure's cut off, but the hull's still there. My dad actually was on the aft mainmast of the ship, and when the bomb hit the forward magazines, the front mainmast collapsed over into the flames, and my dad was trapped up above because there was too much fire for him to come down for a bit. And when he finally did come down, he passed one of his friends that was burnt. He said as black as a burnt piece of toast, and the only way he knew him was how tall he was and the gun station he was at, and he was still alive, standing, just moaning.
You know, I was reading some statistics the other day. That's hard for me to say. I don't even have false teeth. But about there was like 3,300 of our men died. Not all of them were on ship, you know, on the shore, or we lost 100 and some planes that day. They hadn't even got off the ground yet, and luckily all of our the big ships, you know, that where the planes were,
Carriers?
the carriers, you know,
Yeah.
they were all out to sea, weren't
They
they?
were all out to sea.
But there was a lot of ships, according to the statistics here, that were untouched. There was several destroyers that were not bombed, and there was actually they did a poor job, Japanese, of sinking ships that day. I think there was like 8 or 9 that were sunk, but most of them were able to bring back. How many ships are actually in Pearl Harbor that are still there that were sunk that day? You know?
I'm not sure. Did you, Jen?
They have memorials out there,
Yeah.
but I don't remember
Yeah.
making a number of them.
Yeah.
But
There's one of them that they actually was able to roll it up, and you were telling me the other day, and get it back out to sea in a real short amount of time.
The USS Nevada.
Nevada.
Normally it takes 2 hours to get steam up on a battleship to get underway, and they were underway in 45 minutes.
Wow, I seen a picture of that the other day where they actually hooks cables on it, and they were uprighting that ship so they could get it seaworthy again. But that was, you know, they had maps, they had designs, the Japanese, of all of our ships, and just exactly which ones they wanted to hit, you know, and so they knew what they were after, but they didn't figure on the aircraft carriers being out to sea.
Right.
And those were their main targets. So, but I think these are all interesting stories. And you said the other day, you know, that your father give you some information and some stories before he actually passed away that he hadn't told anyone.
That was my uncle.
That was your uncle, okay?
My uncle. He was 80 years old before he would even talk about what
He was 80 years
happened to
old.
him. Yeah, and my father had made a audio recording of his experience at Pearl Harbor. So my uncle William had heard that and thought his kids and grandkids needed to know what he did. So he told me, because I was on the destroyer, like you said, DD-839, and he was on a destroyer, DD-809.
809, yeah.
And he said, you know, you kind of know, you know, we're on the same type of ship, so let me tell you what happened to me. So I sat down and recorded him. He was on the USS South Dakota, one of the new big battleships.
Yeah.
In the Battle of the Coral Sea, and he was a mess cook, and he was the third deck down on the ship, and a 14-inch Japanese shell come into the compartment he was in and went off.
Wow.
He survived because he was on the opposite side of the 16-inch gun turret that went down to the decks.
Yeah.
So they sent him to a destroyer, the DD-809 USS Calhoun.
Yeah.
And he went straight to Iwo Jima, helped gunfire support there, helped...
that first ship he was on was the Calhoun?
That was the second one.
That was the second
South
one.
Dakota was the
USS
first.
South
And that
Dakota.
one was the one sunk at Okinawa?
Yeah, he was sunk on the Calhoun at Okinawa. That's when
South Dakota, wasn't it?
when we were invading Okinawa, and the kamikaze started then.
Uh-huh.
And he said they would come and they would drop a bomb on one ship and dive into the next, and there was two destroyers.
Yeah.
And he was sunk there with 2 bombs and 6
So there's a lot of
kamikazes.
history in your family. You know,
Quite a bit.
a lot of dedication and
A lot of Navy.
hardship.
Yeah,
All for the flag, all for America's,
all for the country.
all for the country. And you said something about that that ship that you were on, the DD-839. It wasn't shortly after Vietnam that it was what they call them, decommissioned.
They decommissioned it and sold it to Taiwan.
Sold it to Taiwan.
They kept it. They turned it into a guided missile frigate until 2005, and then they decommissioned it and turned it into a museum.
Turned it into a museum.
So it's still floating.
Still floating. Wow.
This is interesting.
That is interesting. So you know, in war, there's always some strange things that happen you cannot explain. You know, and probably got most veterans that were in combat, like I've got 1,000 different stories. But
Yeah, I know you were in country,
yeah,
and so you saw a lot more up close and personal than I did. But
Yeah.
we did a lot of gunfire support, and I've watched.
yeah. Somebody was shooting over our head one night on one of those big ships. You said the other day that was probably the Oklahoma, was it,
Or the New Jersey.
or the New Jersey?
Yeah.
You could actually hear, it was at night, you could actually hear those big shells going over our head, and it felt like you could just reach up and touch it. They were that close, but then you'd see them, a big blast in the hills, and then about a half a second, or about a half a minute later, you'd feel the blast.
Yeah, I know the projectiles.
Quite a bit of firepower there. So
Yeah, the
well,
projectiles.
we're glad that you guys could be with us today. And I sure thank you for coming and telling us your story. I wish we had more time, so maybe we'll have you back
Well, we
on
thank
the
you.
program. So
Thank you for having us.
we're going to wrap this up right here, and we hope that you'll continue to tune in to Veterans Voice. We'll have some more interesting stories, real life stories, and that's what this program is about. We want people to share their real life stories and encourage our younger people to go out there and join up, you know, and see the world, as you say. So we'll see you next week, same time, same channel.